One of the most infamous and controversial bands in the world. W.A.S.P, the 40th Never Stops World Tour with special guest, Armored Saint. W.A.S.P live. Go to waspnation.com for tour details and tickets. W.A.S.P, feel the sting.
Welcome. We bid you welcome. John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world. Today with my faithful co-captain on this series we have called W.A.S.P Wednesday, at least for another week or two, John the Music Nut. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well, brother. How about you?
I'm still a little tired from Game Changer Wrestling the night before, but I'm good. I'm ready to go. And we have us a special guest that came to me through the social media W.A.S.P Nation Facebook group. And he was putting a lot of great insights into the different CDs, rankings, and things of that nature. Jake, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh man, it's a
Jake.
Thank you for coming on and just sharing your W.A.S.P stories with us, which is what we're going to basically go over on this show. So, like I said, Jake and I connected on social media. He gave me a lot of great input and stuff of what he thought about a lot of the different albums, and I was really impressed with the in-depthness that he was, is that even a word? In-depthness that he was going into with all of these albums. And so I was like, we just kind of started messaging a little bit, and he saw something about me saying, hey, how about getting somebody on the show? And Jake volunteered, and I'm glad he did. So,
Absolutely.
So Jake, first tell us a little bit about yourself and then how you got into W.A.S.P. Let's get your backstory a little bit.
Okay, well, like I said, I'm obviously 20 years younger than you guys. So, born in 1990, I missed their heyday. My dad was a guitar player who played guitar, and then my older brother did, and then I sort of picked it up a little bit. And it was one of those things where, I never was going to be at that level of my older brother or my dad and that good, and so I kind of tossed it to the side. I'm never going to measure that. And then it was like, oh, the bass kind of. So I dabbled in that for a little bit. That was kind of where I kind of found my thing for a little bit. But I started off, my dad was a big hair metal guy. So I grew up with like Van Halen and Motley Crue and Def Leppard and, Poison and stuff like that, listening to stuff like that all the time. And that was Kiss and stuff. So music was always playing when I was growing up. And then when it came time for me, when I was like 10 or 11, to pick my own bands, I think the first band I got into was like Creed and then Nickelback and Mudvayne and Rob Zombie. And then Skid Row was a really big one for me. Skid Row has always been one of my favorites. And then, God, what was it? It was in 2014, I went and saw Van Halen reunion with Sammy Hagar. Nice. Dad and I went and saw that. And that was a great show. And then it started like this rabbit hole. I went down this rabbit hole of like bands from that era. And I found W.A.S.P, and it was Blind in Texas. And I was like, I don't know. This isn't as good as all these other sex, drugs, and rock and roll bands to me. And so I kind of wrote them off. But I downloaded all this music from, at the time, it was LimeWire, a file sharing thing. Yep. And one day while I was walking and while jogging, this song came on, and it was Asylum Number 9. I was like, who is this? This is a killer tune. And I pulled it up, and it was W.A.S.P. And I was like, this is the Blind in Texas guys? No way, this is awesome. So then I went and I downloaded some of their newer stuff and off of that album, and then more of their newer stuff. And I was like, oh, this stuff is really good. So then I started buying their CDs and their back catalog. And then it was just back to their first album. And it was way different than Blind in Texas, which I know everyone loves it, but I just felt like they didn't do the party stuff as well as like Poison or Motley or Rat or any of those other bands. It didn't click with me. But there's more serious stuff just hit me hard. And that was back in like, right after the Neon God came out. So that was when I found them. And then God, it was 2007 when Dominator came out. Yeah. And of course I was 17 at the time. So you're joining the workforce and jobs are nowhere to be found. The economy's kind of in the dump. And here comes this super like political, like he's just singing about what I'm feeling, man. And that album just hit a chord. And I was just like, man, this is like pretty much how I feel about the state of our government right now. Like, and to this day, that album just, it's special. It's one of those albums where it's like, it hits you at the right spot. It clicks with you musically, lyrically, and the Crimson Idol is my favorite, but Dominator it sits right up there with it because it's so special like that. And after that they became my favorite band. It was like I want to see them, but they never came to the States, And I think when they did, I was 20 years old, a broke 20-year-old kid, and they came to Denver, and I was like, I don't got the money to go to Denver. In what was that, 2010?
Yeah.
So I waited and I waited, and they announced their 40th and when they put the tickets on sale in January, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was January, but I bought the tickets for the Denver show the day they went on sale, like the day. I was like, I'm going, I don't care. And we went down there, and that was just one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah. Did you didn't do the meet and greet, I guess, right?
No, not that time. It was one of those things where I debated it, but I really wanted, if it would have been the band I put in, and I had a really weird experience where I went down there because Dad and I would see W.A.S.P, and it was a 6-hour drive from where I'm at. And we pulled in the night before to the hotel, and as we pulled in, there's the two front end, haulers for the like trailers, just the two front end, like they're not the cargo back halves. And I commented, "Oh, look, there's just two trailers sitting here, just the front end bits, nothing else." And he says, "This is a nice spot right off the interstate for truckers." Didn't think anything of it. Went upstairs and we went to bed. And then the next day we went down to the venue and kind of walked around and hit up a sandwich shop and whatnot, and we're walking around. And before we got to the sandwich shop, we walked around for a good bit. We're passing the sandwich shop, and Dad says to me, he's like, "Hey Jake," he's like, "You hungry?" I'm like, "No, not really." He's like, "You thirsty?" "No, I'm not thirsty." And he's like, "No, I think you need to come here. I think you're hungry." And I says, "No, I'm not really hungry, Dad, not at all." And he's like, "No, come here." He's like, he's like, "Are you thirsty or hungry?" He says, "No." He's like, "Do you know any of these people in this window?" So I'm like, the heck is he on about? So I look in there, and sitting in the window is Joey Vera and John Bush of Armored Saint. But on the couch over here in the sandwich / coffee shop is Doug Blair. And I'm like, "Oh, that's Doug Blair." Nice. And he's like, and Doug Blair's always been one of my favorites, favorite guitar players. Like, just the way he plays the Idol is just so mesmerizing. And I took a video of it and I posted it in the group. It's one of my like bucket list items I had to do. And so I went in there and I ordered a sandwich and went and I turned to him and I says, "Excuse me, are you Doug Blair?" And he's like, he gets this like awkward smile and he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Can I help you?" I says, "Oh, I don't know." I says, "I'm kind of here to see you tonight." And he's like, "Are you here to see me or are you here to see the band?" And he started chuckling. I was like, "Well, both." But then we talked about Dominator and Babylon and Golgotha and his solo on the Idol. And I talked to him for 15, 20 minutes. He was just really nice and down to earth. And he said he was programming the stuff because the sandwich shop sat right, like the venue was here and it was kind of sitting right off the side of the venue. And he said he was programming stuff for their show that night. But then he signed my W.A.S.P tattoo, and then I ended up getting his signature tattooed into my W.A.S.P tattoo.
Nice.
Nice.
But then, yeah, then it was really cool. And then I talked to Joey and John, and they were super cool. But I was like totally godsmacked and starstruck. And then we walked around, and then we went and had dinner, and then waited the show. Come time to the show, just had a great show. They didn't play long compared to a lot of bands, but at the end of the show, Mike Duda comes over to the edge of the stage right after they were done, and he let's see if I can.
Oh, nice.
Handed me the last pick he used, and so that was pretty cool. But then of course the highlight of the whole night, and this was really, really surreal, and I still question myself if this happened. We get back to the hotel. Remember those trailers I was talking about? We get into the lobby, and as we round the corner, sitting on a chair in front of the elevator, is one of the security guys and Blackie Lawless. And Dad, he slaps me, and he's like, "Do you see this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "Is this really I was like, "I don't know." And Blackie sees us, and he's like, "What's up, guys?" He's like, "Come on over." And we sat down with him, and he's like, "How'd you like?" I was like, you guys were at the show, right?" And we're like, "Yeah, uh-huh." And he's like, "Well, come talk to me." He's like, so we talked to him for 15, 20, actually, I think it was closer to a half an hour. He was just so chill. He was burnt out, tired as heck, but he was one of the chillest rock stars I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. And he took a picture with us, and then he too, I don't know, let's see if we can signed my W.A.S.P tattoo,
Okay.
which it's
There it
18
is up
bloody
top.
roses.
Yep.
There's
I see
Doug,
it.
and there's Blackie, and it's 18 bloody roses going up and down my arm.
Ooh,
And
that's
he
a
signed
nice
that,
little
and it's
Crimson Idol reference there.
Absolutely. Wow.
and he like I said, he was just super chill. And I've met, let's see here, I've met Wild McBrown of Dokken. I've met all of the guys of Pop Evil. I've met God, let's say I'm drawing a blank. I've met Brett Michaels. There's probably half a dozen I've met up in Sturgis alone. Some of the guys from Five Finger Death Punch. I've met Buck Cherry a couple times. It's, but he was just he gave you that time, and I was like, oh whoa, this is different. He wasn't like, I'm in a rush, I'm tired, leave me alone. He was like, no, just come hang out with me for a little bit.
That's
Wow.
cool. That's
That
cool.
is awesome.
And I had to pay $350 for the meet and greet just to hang out with them. And no, I would do it again. I would do it again in a heartbeat. But yeah, because I didn't know if I would get that lucky to do what you got. But that's awesome. That is no man. That's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you had. I didn't know if you had more of the story.
That was such.
Go
No,
ahead.
that was it. But because it was such a great experience, they announced the second leg of the tour, and of course we looked, and Omaha is closest to where we're at. And Dad looks at me, and he's like, "Do you want to do a meet and greet this time?" Yeah,
Nice.
So
yeah, that was
so
was
we're
such.
gonna drive another.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
We're
yeah,
gonna
dude.
drive another like 6 hours for Omaha.
Wow, great, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, the meet and greet was just surreal for me. Uh, there was probably so much more I wish I could have told him and said to him, but obviously, in the constriction of time, you don't get a lot of you don't get a lot of time to really say a whole lot. You just got to really fine tune it, and off you go. Yeah, because you want to be able to give everybody else a shot, But yeah, no, that getting the picture taken in front of Elvis and the Warlock bass was pretty cool, and stuff like that. But yeah, getting the picture taken with him, yeah, he's got that look on his face. He really serious and and stuff like that. But I mean, it was really, really, really super cool. I wish I had some of the stuff from my heyday of all the things I had collected, like all the 12-inch singles and some of the vinyls and stuff that I wish I had still had all that, because I would have had him sign that. But hey, I'm not complaining. I got Crimson Idol stuff and Re-Idolized stuff signed, and I'm certainly not complaining. But dude, that's really, really super cool. That is really super cool. But because not everybody gets that chance to do that kind of thing, where you get to just hang
No,
out. That doesn't happen
no,
often. So
yeah,
great.
and it was like I said, I still question some days if it happened.
I probably would too. I probably would too. So what did you think of the show in general? What were your thoughts about the show?
Sound wise, I thought it was stellar. Light wise was amazing, and I went in knowing they were going to play the majority of like from their 80s library. My only complaint is honestly, I wish they would have played more from Dominator, Babylon, or Golgotha. And maybe like I've always thought that Let It Roar off of Unholy Terror is the perfect opener for a W.A.S.P show, but I knew they weren't going to play that. But maybe Crazy or Heaven's Hung in Black or Take Me Up would have been great.
Yep, you see us shaking our
Or
heads.
even
We
Golgotha.
you see us shaking our heads. There's like a lot of
Yep.
songs. It's like, oh, we wish they would have played this. We wish they would have played that,
Yep.
or stuff like that. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, only a couple of those early shows got Heavens Hung in Black and Crazy, and
Mhm.
what was some of the other? There was a couple of other oddballs that they threw in those early shows.
Rebellion into I Don't Need No Doctor.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's that.
And then didn't they have Arena of Pleasure too on a couple of the earlier shows?
They might have.
Maybe. Maybe. I know it was the one that was kicked around. I don't know if it actually wound up making the set. I think it was like written in, but I don't know if it actually got in the set. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. But yeah,
Hmm.
it is a shame that they cut that set down almost a half an hour or so. But
It is.
it is what it is. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on like the backing track thing?
You know, I guess I see because I know Blackie said, and you can hear it too, that when he does the chorus, it's him, Duda, and Doug singing, and then there's two layers of backing tracks in there with them.
Yes.
And my honest thoughts are okay, if he's singing the whole show with backing tracks, why is he cutting songs out of the set lists? Why is he saying, okay, I need to rest, I need to cut you wouldn't do that if this thing's pre-recorded the whole thing through. That's my honest take on it. I think people hear backing tracks with the back chorus and they're like, oh, it's faked.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I
There
was
was
just
I think there's two times at my show where go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say I think I was just so caught up in the moment that I really wasn't even giving that any thought. When I
Oh,
was just listening to it,
okay.
I was just so caught in the moment of just I'm finally seeing W.A.S.P in concert. I just didn't even think about it anymore at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So
There
but yeah,
was
what go ahead.
one part when God, it was Wild Child. Blackie came up to the mic a little bit late, and then it was during Love Machine. And Duda came up. He's what is it? Where in Love Machine, magic runs through my fingers. One touch, you'll see where Duda sings that part. He comes in and he came in late, and you could see him kind of look over at Blackie like, "Oh, I'm sorry." but he came in
Oops.
late on that vocal part, and so yeah.
Oops. Oh well.
But so that's kind of my take on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good fair take. That's a fair take. I don't know if I ever did. John, did we ever talk about that? What was your thought on that? Like when you saw them, did that even cross your mind when you thought about it?
We did talk about it before we did the series, when we talked about seeing them live, and David Alpazar was on the show with us as well.
Right.
I noticed firsthand. I said they sound great, but I could tell they're playing to a track. But I think it's just that when Blackie says there's a lot of backing vocals on those albums, and we're trying to replicate that I can understand. But I didn't notice him coming in late on anything, like for a split second or anything like that. I know all the instruments they're obviously playing all those songs.
Yeah.
But when they're going in those big choruses, like on Murders in a Rue Morgue, and you hear all these voices and they're singing, I'm like, there's more than 3 voices there. So, but at the same time, I could tell they were singing too. So I was good with it, but I think it was more to get that full experience of what you heard on those albums. So, I mean, that if I didn't see anything like you see with Kiss, where their mouths are away from the microphones and you hear the vocals, I didn't get that vibe.
Right.
But yeah, I was cool with it, but I did notice it pretty quick.
I think for me, the other thing too is the way the stage was lit. A lot of it was, I wasn't like right up against the stage, unfortunately, because the meet and greet was still going on and they were letting people in, that I wasn't able to get like right to the front. But the stage, for the most part, was always so dark or so oddly lit. So you almost had to literally be almost on top of the stage to really tell if there was anything going on, at least from my vantage point. So because it wasn't like a completely totally bright light the entire time. There was a lot of red, a lot of dark colors, lighting the part of the stage. So but yeah, but again, I was just so caught up in the moment that I didn't even think about it. So, that's just me. But because I was expecting it to sound like some live things you've heard in the past, where it sounds pretty rough. It sounds pretty raw, and that's kind of what I was expecting, and that's not what I got. I got a really polished sound, from what my ears were hearing. I heard a good, strong, polished sound. So yeah, good stuff. No, good stuff, Jake. Really. So John, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to throw out to Jake before I ask him about his thoughts on his ranking. So I didn't know if you wanted to throw some questions to him.
What did you think of Armored Saint that night?
My experience with Armored Saint was very, very little, and my intro to Armored Saint was really weird because, of course, I knew of John Bush through Anthrax, because that was how I found out about him. But when I met Queensryche, I talked to Eddie Jackson, of course, being a bass guy. Eddie was the reason I picked up the bass, and we were talking about bassists, and he told me to look into Armored Saint and check out Joey Vera. And this was 3-4 years before I saw Armored Saint, so they're fairly new to me. But I absolutely loved them. They came out, they rocked. They had a good sound. Not Joey, but John's vocals could have been turned up a little bit. But I really, really liked them, and their guitar players were super impressive.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I mean, I thought they were outstanding live, and the fact that they're opening for again, I just love it. I mean, I'm really getting into that. I mean, I liked them back in the day, but the only album I ever had by them was Saints Will Conquer, and that was an EP. and I got that on cassette. I didn't get I didn't get March of the Saints or Delirious Nomad or any of those early albums. Once I got to see them, I was all in, and I thought they killed it live. And I remember John did a great job with Anthrax. I think Sound of White Noise is a wonderful record. Yeah, but yeah,
Among the is it Among the Living? Yeah,
Among
Among the Living.
Among the Living was with Joey Belladonna.
Yeah.
What's the one? It's the We've come for you all.
We've come for you all.
It's the purple.
Oh
one.
yeah.
That's
That's the one, the purple one. Yeah. Yep. I bought that. God, I was maybe 11 when I bought that.
Okay. This is cool though, because you're getting into this great music at younger ages than I did. I mean, 11 years old. I mean, Creatures of the Night came out, and I remember the I Love It Loud video, but I didn't have the cassette until about 2 years later. So that's cool. And the fact that your dad was into it too. My dad, he didn't like most of the stuff I liked back then. He didn't anyway.
My first Megadeth CD was The World Needs a Hero, and I bought that when that came out.
So that was 2004. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
No, that 2004 was The System Has Failed. The World Needs a Hero was
I'm sorry.
Was 01.
That's right. You're right. It is 01.
Okay, that's right.
Yes.
My bad. Excellent.
So I was 11 when that came out too.
Oh, so you're getting this stuff almost out of the cradle. I love it.
Yeah.
Nice. Good stuff.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, just I would have loved to have seen him. I mean, I would have been 13 at that time. But in 84, W.A.S.P, Metallica, and Armored Saint were playing clubs. And they played a club not maybe 20 minutes from where I lived, and I was 13 years old. I obviously couldn't drive to the show. But yeah, W.A.S.P was headlining over Metallica because at that point, W.A.S.P had the EP and the first album. Metallica they just put out Ride the Lightning at that point. And Armored Saint had put out March of the Saint. Oh God, when I hear people talk about seeing them back in the day, I'm so envious because I would have loved to have seen that.
Me too.
Yeah.
The one I would have loved to have seen was the Motorhead W.A.S.P tour when W.A.S.P was doing KFD.
I was supposed to.
Yes, that's what you said when
the show was canceled. I didn't know about it until we got to the venue. Yeah, that was, I was heartbroken.
Was that the 3-hour drive to the venue too, John?
Yeah, we were staying in Philly because, well, no, we actually went to my brother's house first, then we went down to Philly. We stayed in Philly overnight, and we get to the venue, to the Electric Factory, only to find out the show had been canceled. And then I found out later is because Chris was still recovering from he had to have a rush surgery on his knee for he blew his knee out overseas, and they had canceled some last couple of gigs over there before they came over to the States, because they pretty much jumped right in from the European tour right into the States, and there wasn't a whole lot of time. So unfortunately, the Philadelphia gig got canceled, but then the next day I had Ozfest 97 to go to. So, nice. So I did, it wasn't a total loss, but I was heartbroken that I didn't get to see that concert. But, and maybe I shouldn't be heartbroken. Maybe knowing how that set was, or how that the visuals of that show was, might have scarred me for life. So who knows? But anyway,
but then you missed out on Motorhead too.
I missed out on Motorhead. Yeah, I never got to see Motorhead. So, but but
me.
Yeah, Motorhead was playing. They were playing in 15, but Lemmy was missing gigs, and I was going to go see him up in Wanson, New York. And I believe Anthrax and Crowbot were on that list, that show. and they were playing a huge venue. It wasn't going to sell out. The tickets were $25. I was just going to get a ticket at the show, and I saw that Lemmy was missing gigs, and I'm like, I'll just wait till next year when Lemmy feels better. And 3 months later, he wasn't with us anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Boy.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, again, I'm not even sure what Motorhead was touring on in '97, but either way, just to say I saw Lemmy, hey, it didn't matter what he was touring. Just to have heard him actually doing Ace of Spades and all the classic songs, But although I'm sure now Motorhead fans are going to be upset that I was like, well, there's so much more to Ace of Spades and Overkill and all the Motorhead and all the Live at Hammersmith type stuff that everybody probably knows back to front.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so I'll let you keep going on your questioning, or if you had any other things you want to throw to them.
Yeah, I have one more question for you, Jake. I kind of think I already know where you're going to go, just based on what we were talking about before we hit record here. A lot of W.A.S.P fans, they swear by that original lineup. They swear by Chris Holmes, Randy Piper, Tony Richards, later on Stephen Riley, and they swear by those first four albums, maybe the first three, possibly the fourth album. And Johnny Rod was there by that point. He was also on Inside the Electric Circus. But then there's other fans who, they like it all, and they like other eras. Sometimes the later eras more. Where would you fall in that category?
I like the later eras, like post 89 to forward, the best. And I'm gonna get in trouble by some of the W.A.S.P fans for saying this. I don't think Steve Riley was a good fit for a drummer for W.A.S.P. He's a great hard rock drummer, but a heavy metal drummer, I don't think he worked well with the band. And
I agree with you.
think okay, and I think on a technical standpoint, I think Doug Blair is probably the most gifted guitar player Blackie's ever had. I think Chris Holmes is absolutely fun to watch and listen to, and he's got this sloppy, unethical guitar style that's just out of this world. And Randy Piper was completely underrated, and I think underutilized on that second album too. But I really, really like from Unholy Terror forward. That's probably, like, if you look 80% of the time, I'd probably grab one of those albums.
Nice. Yeah. One of the things, I'm happy you said that. And I think just recently, John and I were saying, if you think W.A.S.P is just what they were in the 80s, listen to Unholy Terror forward. Then tell me how you feel. Tell us how you feel, because there's some magnificent albums from that point on.
Oh, there really is. And Unholy Terror is just front to back, and even Dying for the World, front to back, consistently solid, good, where you put that on, and when it gets over, you're like, oh, it's over?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Turn it back on again.
Yeah, start it over again.
Awesome. All right, I'm done with my questions.
Okay,
I'm sold.
So you basically essentially answered my question about how you ranked them, because it's kind of very obvious that those later albums just appeal to you more, because it's kind of where you came in. And so that later period, it's the classic era of the band, but if you're going to compare Sex Drive to I don't want to use Hologram. Hate to Love Me. Let's go there. Sex Drive to Hate to Love Me. Hands down, it's going to be Hate to Love Me. If you're gonna compare Ball Crusher to Revengeance, Revengeance is going to win. My defense of why I ranked Last Command number 12 was half the album just doesn't stand up very well to me anymore. and as much as I loved it back in the day, it just doesn't stand up too well to me anymore. Especially when you're comparing it to such a lot of the later period. Maybe the later period might not have that classic, that emotional feel that you got when you first heard those first couple albums, but just the songwriting was just so much stronger to me. And so that's how I defend it. I just feel like that was and I think you kind of would probably say it the same way.
Oddly, I think the three strongest tracks for me on Last Command are Cries in the Night, Widowmaker, and The Last Command for me. Those are my three favorites on that one.
Okay. Yeah, and
They're all strong.
Those are all strong songs. I still like Wild Child because that's just to me, I just go into a totally different mindset when Wild Child comes on. But
I love Wild Child.
But I mean the rest
especially with that extended solo in there.
Exactly. But from there, it's just the rest of the album just didn't age. It just didn't age well. And I know a lot of people gave me grief about me picking on Steve Riley. And I'm just like, well, let's think about this. You had the crispness of Tony Richards on that first album. And then you get Steve Riley, and it just didn't seem like it had that same punch to it to me. And that and a lot of people just didn't. A lot of people were disagreeing with me with that. Almost like, well, I don't know, maybe my ears are old, but that's just what I hear. I just don't hear that same punch that's with Steve Riley. And I think you're right. I don't think it was as good of a fit as later people that have come. Obviously Frankie would have been great if Quiet Riot didn't want to still keep doing stuff. But obviously Mike Dubke was great. Achilles is a beast. So and of course Stat Howland is also good. And of course now he's doing his thing in Metal Church. So that maybe that'll be that's our 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, or in this case 5 degrees of W.A.S.P. for W.A.S.P. Wednesday when we ever get into Metal Church. But I don't think he was on as many albums. But anyway, yeah, I think the arguments here are pretty much the same. We realize that what the more mature Blackie we got, that was where our mindsets were heading to. And that's what it's like we can gravitate that, because there's something he's saying here. And I'm like, I agree with what he's saying, so, even Neon God as you probably saw in those episodes, that was a deep story to get into. And it really sunk me into it, because I don't know what came out of me on those 2 shows for that. But I mean, that's just how that story just sucked me in, and just like, there's so much to unpack there. But again, it's just like, it just captivates you. So anyway,
I just want to add something that we've never told our viewers before. We do these shows on Sunday, but that week we had something going on. So we were going to tape Neon God 1 and Neon God 2 the same day. And I went back to John. I said, you got to give me another day on this, because there's too much here. I go, give me one more day and I could do Neon God 2. Because there was just so much with Neon God 1 that I didn't have enough time to really get into Neon God 2. We didn't realize, I didn't realize the big can of worms I opened, because I just got into those. Like, I didn't listen to the later albums until we started the series. So I was okay. I knew all the albums through KFD. It was when we started the series that John asked me to be a part of it that I got into the later albums. And a lot of them I was picking up, I was listening to them during a week or the 2 weeks or whatever. And I was like, okay, I got a good handle on this. I know what I'm going to talk about, where we're going to go. where we're gonna go. Neon God, I was like, there's a lot here to uncover, and I just ran out of time. And I told John, I go, I can't do this all in one night. I go, give me tomorrow, and I'll have it by then. And I did, but there's just so much to uncover on those albums. Like the first one just wore me right out mentally. So just the inside.
Well, then you ranked the first one pretty high too, didn't you? Wasn't that in your top 5?
Yes, it was. And because I enjoyed it so much, and then by the time I was into part 2, I was like, this is a lot of the same stuff that I heard on 1. Now, maybe one day I'll like it a little more, but yeah, 1 really took me in. And I ranked it number 5. Like that and Unholy Terror are like neck and neck, and Unholy Terror was 6 for me. But oh God, yeah. But I mean, that took me in, but there was a lot. There was a lot to get into there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And I know Neon God won. I mean, that wouldn't be in too many people's top 5s. It wasn't mine. But is it in yours too? Oh, okay. All right.
No, it's not I don't think it's in my top 5, but I think it's in my top 10.
Okay.
Let's see. You guys keep. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I have
the.
I'm just gonna see if I have it in the message or. Okay, no, it was in the group. I was just trying to remember how you ranked them because in fact, if you have it handy, Jake, why don't you read it off to John so he can.
I can pull. Let's see here. I can find it quick. Okay. Okay, here we go. From worst to best. Eldorado at the worst.
Okay.
I will say I agree with you guys. Damnation Angels is top tier W.A.S.P.
Oh yeah.
The Last Command. Inside the Electric Circus.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like the songwriting was a little bit better on that one. I don't know. Then I have the self-titled one, which is really that shocked John when I put
that shocked me pretty well.
Yeah, that shocks me too. Mm-hmm. But hey,
but then at that point I feel like you're picking kids at that point, you know. Still not black enough. That one's really good. Then the Headless Children. And then I have the Neon God Part 1 and then the Neon God Part 2. For me, and I flip-flop on those two. One day I'll listen to one and I'll be like, oh, that's better than the second one. Then I'll listen to 2 and I'll be like, no, I like that one better. And then I have Babylon and then KFD and then Dying for the World and then Unholy Terror and Golgotha and then Dominator at number 2 and Crimson Idol at number 1.
Okay.
Great list.
Yeah.
I'm surprised if KFD that high. I mean, but again, I think I said when we were ranking it, it was my least, well, actually it would probably be Eldorado now, but I can see how a lot of people would like this too. Mm-hmm. It's just, the sound is all consuming. And it's something that you got to accept you have to accept it on that level. I'm done.
Mm-hmm. I hated that album when I first heard it. I hated that album. Hated it when I first heard it. And then it was really weird. It was like a light switch. One day I came home from work and I was like, I want to listen to KFD. And I put it on and it was like, this is actually good. This is better than I remember it. And then I listened to it again right afterwards. And I was like, musically it's very different, but it's got some really cool bass lines, and you can hear Mike Duda's. If you know anything about bass, a Spectre bass is like the Cadillac of bass. It's like one of the best basses you can, and it has a distinct sound, and you can just hear that Spectre rattle and that Spectre just growl on there, and it's like, oh man, this sounds really nice to my ears. Like I really like the bass on here. And then I kept listening to it, and the lyrics are darker. They're a little bit more horror-esque. And it just grew on me, and I, I put it on and I play it probably at least almost once a month now.
Nice.
Yeah, I told all my KFD stories in I think in that episode. So yeah, that was as I've said before, that was a dark time. And it took a long time before I could finally listen to that thing again and not feel like I was going to go back into some really dark places. But yeah, I can now, and I'm okay. It doesn't affect me like I once did. I just know better than to sing "Kill Your Pretty Face" with somebody in the car with me now. Well, I'll tell you what, Jake, this has just been a fabulous time, just getting to know you a little bit, hearing your story,
Absolutely.
you know, and getting just to have a fun chat with another a super fan, as we have been referred to. You know, I appreciate you coming on and doing this with us. Um, you know, another fun way, kind of penultimate episode of Wasp Wednesday, which I know for John, this is breaks our hearts that this is coming to an end, but we can't really. We could come up with all kinds of things, but it's just there's I think at this point I think the catalog was the main thing we wanted to tackle, and you all came out in spades with some great comments and some great thoughts. Yeah, you gave me a lot of flack for Last Command being so low, but you know what? Music is subjective. Everybody hears it differently, and everything changes with some. You know, maybe with some people, yeah, that emotional feeling will always be there.
Right.
But you know, in this particular case, I went with how I just felt the songs went, and again, I think everybody respected the decisions. You know, Jake, hopefully we could do this again sometime with
That would be fun.
some other little topic of some sort. We can get you on, and we can look forward to something in the future. But
I would be down.
Awesome.
very, very, very cool. So, guys, this has been the last episode is going to be our dream set list.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm going to put on it yet. I have
Good
no
ideas.
clue. I have no clue. All I know is if I go this one direction, it's only going to have about 7 songs, because then it'll take up 2 hours to get all 7 of them done. So you can kind of get an idea where I'm going with that. But that's going to be our next episode, and actually the last episode of Wasp Wednesday. But John and I are going to be doing some other topics. You know, we're gonna look at we're gonna I don't know if I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag too quickly. Actually, I'm gonna keep some stuff under wraps just to keep people guessing, because you never know what the two of us might come up with to talk about. And now that we've got a Lee or a Jake here, at some point we'll bring him back on, and we can discuss some the next time he goes. When is that concert in Omaha?
August, I want to say 15th.
Okay, all right, well, maybe we can work something out where we'll just we'll have you on and say, all right, pal, the floor is yours. Let's hear your thoughts on the meet and greet, if you know that you did, and what they did with the set and stuff like that. How's that sound?
Yeah,
cool. Because
nice.
I'm not gonna be able.
Awesome. That would be awesome.
I'm not gonna be able to see the second leg, unfortunately, because it's not playing anywhere close to me. And if it is, I already have a previous engagement those in that time period. So I'm going to have to miss the second leg of the tour, unfortunately. Which breaks my heart too, but it is what it is. But so I'll be looking forward, because I think John's going to try to see it again.
I have a ticket. I'm going to see them in Stroudsburg on August 25th.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see.
Awesome.
I need to figure out how to do. I need to get up for that. Anyway.
There's still tickets available.
I bet there is. So maybe that's what we'll do. we'll get because that's on the 25th. Yours is the 15th. So yeah, we're gonna do that. We'll have the second leg of the tour review from these guys, and there you go. So that will really complete the last Wednesday for a little while anyway. So for not State Farm Jake, but Sturgis
No.
Jake here.
Nice.
Jake from Stisso. No, Jake from the W.A.S.P Nation group. Thank you again for coming on. We much appreciate this. For my co-captain, John the Music Nut, who has been my faithful co-captain on this journey that we're going to go into all kinds of other stuff. Maybe not W.A.S.P related, but it will be metal related, music related, and other topic related things that we're going to do stuff on. Thank you again, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
I am John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, old enough to be Jake's dad here. And
Me
we
too.
will see you for the Dream Set List show. If you got thoughts and comments on that, put them in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. You know all the YouTube lingo. So again, John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, for John the Music Nut, and Jake from State Farm, not Jake from State Farm. Anyway, we'll see you soon. Jake from Sturgis. Y'all have a good day, man. Take care, everybody.
Take care.